Hey everybody, welcome back to the Monday Afternoon Journal Club. Ed Bowder and Dan Schwester from the Overrun
Hey,
here.
everybody.
Danny, today we are going to talk about a study that comes out of Texas and addresses the very casual issue of medical racism. So this study is by Hall et al.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, everybody. This paper from Hall et al. Talks about out-of-hospital cardiac arrest survival in Black and Hispanic communities since the COVID-19 pandemic. This study is a huge study. It covers almost 500,000 patients. There's a lot of stuff in here. They do a lot of statistical analysis that we really, really love. They started out with 750,000 patients over the age of 18 that they distilled down, as I said, to 506,000 patients. Really, really good end for this. There was 1,313 EMS agencies involved in the analysis. Here are the tables. Your standard age was 61.9. And then as we get down further, and this is really what we're going to discuss here, Dan, they looked at the differences between races in survivability and in the likelihood of cardiac or of CPR being performed. So we're going to start right here down at table 5, rates of bystander CPR and AED use over time, 32% majority Black or Hispanic, 44% predominantly white. And we've discussed medical racism previously on the show. Surely this is an unconscious bias that a lot of people have, but it's important to mention that there are racial disparities in outcomes, especially when COVID happened and now with cardiac arrest. The conclusion of this study mentions that our survivability is getting better since COVID, which is great, but there are still huge, huge racial disparities in cardiac arrest survivability after COVID. Danny, we are not going to solve this problem today, but it is certainly something that we need to take the time to discuss.
No, absolutely. This was an enormous endeavor by the authors of this article. I got to admit, Ed, this paper was a grind. It was hard. It was a lot of data, a lot of information. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of subjects. One thing I did like, and one thing I wanted to plug, was they talked about the CARES registry, which is something that's really important. CARES, what they do is they collate data from reporting agencies on cardiac arrest survival all over the country. They've got an enormous amount of data in there. And what these authors did was they mined that data to get good results for us and see maybe, hey, we're not doing things as well as we should be. I agree with you. It's absolutely an unconscious bias. There's no evidence to suggest to the opposite, but we do have to do a better job, especially in Black and brown communities, of getting the message out and just kind of breaking a little stigma, a little dogmalysis. I think it's important, and I think the numbers show that.
And again, this study doesn't show, this isn't one of those data points that says like, you are racist, right? And I can't wait for that particular clip to get clipped out of context. But that's not what this data is showing, right? What the data is showing is that there is this gap, right? Whether or not the gap is a conscious bias, unconscious bias, you don't like this particular person, you don't like this particular community, that's not what this is analyzing. That's something that behavioral economists and psychologists have to kind of look at. All this is showing is, listen, after COVID, this is what we found. The reality exists that people of color are surviving less than white people. And that's just what it is. So now, and this is one of the things that we kind of like about data, right, Dan, is that we see it. Now, what can we do to fix it, right? The first step to fixing any problem is admitting that there is one, whatever platitude you want to throw out there. And with the N of over 500,000 people, it's really difficult to say like, well, that doesn't represent my community, right? And that might be the case, right? That your community is this, this particular paradise that the rest of us aren't living in. But when we see this type of data, and again, 500,000 people, that's just a good collection method. It just is.
Absolutely.
And it's really hard to look back and fight back against those kind of numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And your community might be doing a fantastic job, and that's great. Keep it up. But for the people that look at this and they're like, okay, now we have an issue. The next question is, what is the issue? Why is this happening? Is it a cultural thing? Is it a reticence to call 911? Is it any number of 20 factors? That's the next step. We need to go into, I agree with you, we need behavioral economists, we need people to come in and now look at these numbers and then do follow-on research. What are we missing? Why aren't we reaching this community? There could be a lot of things, and we need to find out why so that we can do a better job for the community.
And some of the confounding factors obviously exist where, and we've talked about this previously, if you've seen one system, you've seen one system.
Sure.
And certainly with that type of sample size, you're going to have patients that are going to have, particular circumstances that don't exist elsewhere, right? Where
Agreed.
of those 500,000 patients, some of them might be on a 17th floor walk-up, right? There's always those type of outliers, but where the burden falls then is on agencies and on organizations to recognize, okay, in this particular community, right? And you should take the time to look back on your own data, right? If you're working in a place that doesn't have a particularly diverse community, great. This isn't something that affects you, right? But if you're working in the overwhelming majority of the United States, or frankly anywhere else, you're going to have a mixed community. So is it, and this is where you start asking these questions, like, are our response times to this neighborhood slower? Are we not deploying epinephrine in this area? Do we have AEDs that are available in this area? There's your community outreach, right? If you're in, a city and there's a particularly impoverished area or an area that is particularly diverse, do you have the resources in that neighborhood to improve survival? And I think where it gets difficult now is it's hard to make that conversation without it turning political. And you and I have our own political biases. Certainly we feel that, AED should be available everywhere. And,
Sure.
they're not, which is the reality. But I think that if you're an EMS leader and you see this type of data, you have to start sitting and looking at your own community. Where do we fall short, or do we fall short? If you're an organization that is outperforming the rest of the country and your cardiac arrest survivability rate for people of color is 65%, publish that. Let us
We need to know
what you're doing differently. And
yeah,
that
and
could be good.
I just got this vibe when you were talking about this. Like, this could be another Freedom House moment. This is, if we know the story. Listen, we love the story of Freedom House. We talked to those people, and Freedom House was basically designed to fill a need in the community. And this could be your moment. You could be the next Freedom House if you can decipher this, apply it to your community, and garner the improvement. What does it take? We don't know, but somebody will find out, and they need to share it.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is, going through this data. And yeah, there's a lot of statistical tools they use. It's not a fun paper to read, both for the reasons that it's very statistical. It's statistics heavy, and it's also, talking about medical racism. But I think we have an opportunity to take this data and really cause, the effective positive change that we've always talked about, causing an EMS. But let us know what you guys think. Medical racism is a big problem in medicine. It's not just in EMS, but are you having disparities in your cardiac arrest survival rates? What do you guys think? How do we improve this system? For the Monday Afternoon Journal Club, Ed Bowder, Dan Schwester, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Take care.